Hello everyone, welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free Uncommon Sense parenting class. How is everyone today? It is the first week of school here in Ontario, and my children are officially out of the house for 8 hours a day. They started yesterday, and so far so good, so fingers crossed it stays that way. I hope whether your kids are back at school, daycare, preschool, or that your September is staying completely the same, that it is starting off well and you're settling into fall with ease. I think we can all use some ease after the last year and a half, don't you think? Today I wanted to talk about what to do when your kid is upset. Because I've been seeing a misconception crop up a lot lately in the posse, on Instagram, and my DMs, all over the place, and I think it's causing rather a lot of problems for many parents. So before we hop into that, allow me to reintroduce myself for those of you who are joining us for the first time. My name is Alana Robinson, and I'm a parenting coach for parents of toddlers, preschoolers, and kindergartners. I help you understand why your children are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I'm also the host of the Parenting Posse Facebook group, and I'm the creator of the Parentability program where I help you raise well-behaved kids of your own. So if you're here, say hi. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so that you never miss another class. All right. So here's the scenario that I keep seeing over and over and over. Parents are trying to be gentle or respectful or whatever label you want to put on it. And in an effort to do that, they're talking far too much. Most of the conversations that I've seen go something like, I tried to talk to him about it, but he just screamed louder. Or I tried to explain why she can't just hit people, but she immediately turned around and did it again. Or I was trying to show them what to do instead, and they told me to stop talking. Sound familiar? Somewhere along the way, authoritative parents have somehow gotten the impression that the sum total of gentle or respectful or conscious parenting is a whole lot of talk. Sportscasting and explaining and giving choices and on and on and on and on. And don't get me wrong, communication is important. But even within that, talking is not all that there is to communicating. In fact, most communication experts seem to believe that 70 to 95% of communication is nonverbal. So when you put all of your eggs into the talking basket, you're using a tool that only really lands 5% of the time, especially with young kids who are still very much in the thick of their language development. And especially when they're upset, when we physically lose access to the part of our brain that processes language. So how are you supposed to support your kids and discipline them when they're upset without talking? And also without doing all that stuff that we're trying to avoid, like timeouts and spanking, right? A lot of parents will often say, I feel like there's nothing left. I've been painted into a corner. Well, there's lots left. There's so much left. The thing is that everything left requires you to assess the situation. They aren't blanket strategies that you can just whip out willy-nilly. And that requires you to educate yourself so that you can make those determinations quickly and accurately. So they do take more effort out of the box. So the very first thing I want you to do when your kids are upset is shut the hell up. You're going to notice that this is a theme in September. Be quiet. I know it's hard. I've got like a nice little canker sore on the back of my tongue from where I bite myself to stay quiet, because in case you haven't noticed, I don't shut up well. It's not my strength. But it's really important. When your child is upset is not the time to talk to them, okay? Zip it, shush, be quiet. Why? Because when we're upset, our brain sends all of its resources to the source of the emotions, our limbic system. Our limbic system doesn't do language. Our neocortex does. So if all our physical resources are going to a region of the brain that doesn't have the ability to process language, guess what isn't happening? Language processing. We get a backlog, and our brain knows it. And the bigger the backlog becomes, the more panicked we tend to get, which is why when you talk to an upset child, they will often tell you to shut the fuck up, or ignore you, or escalate. So you can reduce the amount of stress that they're feeling just by being quiet. This will also prevent you from saying something out of stress that you don't actually mean. Just because they aren't processing it in the moment doesn't mean it won't get processed. So if you're saying some less than supportive stuff while they're upset, the meaning of those words may not hit them until way later, but once they do, you can bet that the effect will be felt. Now, as I said, this doesn't mean that you can't communicate. Body language is huge. Visuals are much easier to process than words. So use those tools. Generally, I recommend my clients either physically move the child out of a situation and then adopt a very comforting body posture. I like to sit crisscross on the floor and put my hands open on my knees so they can see that I'm open and available. Bonus, if you happen to have a hitter, your hands are in a good position to protect yourself. Try to have soft eyes and focus on your own breathing. We have these cool little things in our brain called mirror neurons. Their only job is to recognize what others are doing and try to determine if we should do it too. This is why yawns are contagious. Because we recognize someone else doing it and our brain goes, tired check, and we have to yawn. See, I can't even talk about it without yawning. We have to yawn to see if we are indeed tired. Even if just talking about it makes often other people feel like they need to yawn like I just did. So use those. If you sit down, have an open stance, and start focusing on your deep breathing or cuddling a stuffy or dancing or reading a book, whatever your kid generally finds calming, their mirror neurons will go, ooh, that looks like it feels good. Do we need that too? And generally, they'll come over and start engaging in it with you too. Don't talk about it. Don't tell them to go do it. Just model it. Use your body language. And don't police it. Often when we hack mirror neurons, our kids will come over and grab the book out of our hands, or they'll knock over the block tower you're building, or whatever. They join in a really inappropriate way. But you know what? We're not teaching them how to join play appropriately. We're trying to calm them down right now. So eye on the prize. Let them take over and get involved. Generally, you'll notice it's working like a charm and that they are calming down because suddenly their language is going to come back. They're going to start chattering to themselves, or they'll start asking questions about the pictures in the book, or they'll start singing to the lyrics of the song that you're dancing to, or whatever. That is your cue to step on over to step 2. And step 2 is our good old logical consequence process. But where most parents go wrong here is that they stop the activity so that they can have a conversation. Do not do that. Now you've gated your child's calm behind a conversation, and just because they're talking again doesn't mean that they're actually totally calm. So try to keep it going while using the LCP. And that is why we use declarative language during the LCP, because imperative language puts us on the defensive. Imperative language requires an action to be attached to the language. Declarative language, however, is solely responsible for experience sharing. Its job is to make a comment on something, not inspire action. So we're using declarative language because the purpose is to get them to think, not to do. At least not yet. Not until we get to the controlled choices. Now, if you don't know what the LCP is or how to use it, I have a very comprehensive blog post on my blog, and I also have an ebook that's even more comprehensive in my timeouts bundle, and you can purchase that through the Parentability portal if you've already downloaded my scripts. There are very specific instructions and steps to go through. Because if you just sit down and go, you need to apologize to your friend for hitting them, of course they're going to feel embarrassed and ashamed, and they're going to get upset again very quickly. Epically quickly. And now we're back at square one. And we're frustrated as fuck. And nothing is working. So keep your language declarative and open-ended, and you'll notice that you can engage them to the point of giving controlled choices much quicker. So I hope that helps explain why your gentle parenting isn't working so well and what I suggest you do instead. And this is why I have such an issue with terms like gentle and respectful and conscious parenting, which is a whole rant for another day. But the Coles notes is that it's not enough to have good intentions. If you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to create secondary issues. If you don't understand how behavior development works, you can be as gentle and respectful as you want, but it's not going to get you very far. And it's difficult to be respectful when you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because, I personally don't feel that talking to someone who is physically unable to process the language you're throwing at them is very respectful. That may be respecting their personhood, but it's not respecting their development. It's not respecting their needs. So then, what's respectful about it? See, this is a whole other topic, but it's why I focus so much on development, because it's important to know what you're working with and why you're doing what you're doing. Next steps, I highly recommend you come join us in the Parenting Posse and we can continue the conversation over there. I'd love to hear your hot take. I'd also recommend grabbing my scripts for crazy making behavior. They're totally free and linked in the description. And when you do that, you'll notice that there's a big discount on the timeouts bundle I was talking about earlier. So if you're ready to start using the logical consequence process more fully, that will give you all the background information and resources you need to get started. The links for all of that are in the description. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I will see you next week for another Uncommon Sense parenting class. Bye!